I want to welcome everybody to tonight's Lee Summit R7 School Board Candidate Forum. I am Matt Baird, President of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to welcome you all to our forum tonight. For those of you who've been able to attend all three of our forums, I want to give you a big round of applause because it's certainly been a long month for me to get these things going. But I'm looking forward to tonight's forum, as this is this will be our last forum for the spring election. We are pleased and honored to have the Lee Summit R7 School Board candidates with us tonight, as well as all of you. I want to express our appreciation to the Missouri Innovation Campus for allowing us to host not only tonight's event, but they have hosted all three forums, and they've done a wonderful job. So thank you to the MIC. I also want to thank the following members who've helped sponsor this evening's forum: AT&T, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, Missouri State Teachers Association, the Lee Summit Tribune, and Spire. So thank you to those organizations and businesses for sponsoring this evening's forum. When you came in this evening, you may have noticed a table containing the candidate profile booklets. They were just right out the side this forum room. So make sure you grabbed one of those. The booklets provide information on each of the candidates' answers to questions previously posed to them by the Lee Summit Chamber. The forum is being live streamed tonight, and the Chamber's YouTube channel will also be posted on our YouTube channel, and a recording of the forum will be posted on the Facebook page. Housekeeping items for tonight: there is water in the back of the room, so please grab a water. Restrooms are through the back and to the right. Please mute or vibrate your cell phones during the forum. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderators for this evening. We have Rodney Lush, Chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee, and Chip Dzinski, Chair of the Government Relations Committee for the Chamber. Both of these fine individuals are active members and volunteers in our community. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Rodney, who will talk about this evening's forum.
Thank you. Good evening again, and welcome to the Lee Summit Chamber's R7 School Board Candidate Forum. I want to thank you all for being here. Before we hear from the candidates, I want to outline the format for tonight. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will go in alphabetical order, and we will go in reverse order as time allows for the final remarks. After the opening comments by the candidates, we'll have a question and answer session. Questions have been generated by members of the Lee Summit Chamber and by you, the audience. When you came in tonight, there were some index cards in the back and perhaps some pens. If you would like to submit a question, put that question on the index card, and Kent Kirby, who's in the back in a yellow blazer, will be picking them up, and we'll sort through them to make sure that we don't have any duplications of questions we're already planning to ask. When you do answer the questions, candidates, you will be given 1 minute for your answer. These, as well as your opening remarks, will be timed. Once the alarm goes off, please be considerate and finish speaking. We ask the candidates to please honor that time allotment. If time permits, then we will have 1 minute for each candidate at the end of the forum for closing remarks. Lastly, during the forum, we ask that the candidates focus on answering the questions. Those that choose to make personal attacks will be warned. If a candidate is warned for a third time, they'll be asked to leave from the forum. So in alphabetical order, we will start with Mike Allen, then Larry Anderson, Heather Eslick, Jennifer Foley, Melissa Foxhoven, William Lindsay, and Joseph Yakanich. You told me it was phonetic, and I wrote it down. Yakadjensky. Thank you. So, Mike, you have 2 minutes.
I believe this is on, yes?
Before, candidates, do not turn your microphones off or on. Leave them on the whole time.
Thank you, Rodney, Chip, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It is a very wide and broad representation of the community, and I've got to tell you that it is exciting, and it's challenging, and I'm probably the most nervous that I've ever been, but that's okay, because all of us are here for a reason, and I want to continue to contribute to the board, to the community. There are 6 other folks on this board, many of whom I see here, a couple in the front row. Smiles are nice, that's good. Each of us bring our own talents and our own set of parameters and lens, so to speak. And the beauty is, somebody asked me in the back, how's the board going? And I think this is probably one of the best boards that I've been on, not just school boards, but just boards overall, because each of us will argue our points, bring our case. We know each other's strengths, weaknesses, causes, concerns, fight like cats and dogs, and at the end of the day, we walk out with a respectful decision and respect and candid opportunity of each person's ownership, right? And contribution. So if nothing else, I feel like I have work to do. Over the past 3 years has been a little difficult. Years before that have been difficult as well, but certainly some unprecedented conditions that I feel like I've been navigating and contributing and a positive influence. I have a record which is easy to call on. I would say that I stand behind my piece, and the beautiful thing about these 4 little points up front, and those were suggested to me, which gives me a lot of pride in others' confidence and trust in who I am. And if you want to call it a little farther, I feel like I know whose I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Anderson, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight and the opportunity to share. I want to start out by introducing my family, my wife, Carla, who is a teacher here at Lee Summit West. And then I have my daughter here, who is Kayla, who is a graduate of Lee Summit West and is now attending Longview Community College. And of course, my youngest daughter, Krista, is a senior in the school district, and she's at a school event right now, so she'll show up later. We're a band family. Everybody was in the band. We love the band, and we were really impressed with the program there. But we moved back in Lee Summit in 2017. My wife was about to graduate and finish her master's degree. She wanted to work for the city or for the school district. I wanted to get closer to where I work, which is downtown. And we like the band program at Lee Summit West. So we're very happy to be a part of the district. You know, I want to serve the communities of LSR-7 by promoting academic rigor through innovative curriculum developed by high-quality teachers. It's important to use my past board experience and my training and my excellent track record to ensure that we hold education as a priority over everything else. You see, it's important to staff the board with qualified, experienced individuals that hold the vision that all students can achieve, and the pathway to achievement may not be the same for each one. So let me take a few minutes to talk about my credentials. I work for the Federal Aviation Administration. I also have a degree in electrical engineering. I have 6 years of previous school board experience on the Butler R5 school district, where I served as the treasurer, the secretary, the vice president, and the president. I am certified by MSBA as a master school board member, and I've also got extensive training. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Heather Eslick, and I am really excited to be here. Only a little bit nervous, but mostly excited. I just wanted to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I've lived in Lee Summit now for 6 years, and my husband and I moved here because we wanted to raise our family here. We thought very highly of the school district, and my husband's originally from Pleasant Hill, so it kept us close to grandparents. So I'm a working mom. I am an active duty U.S. Army veteran. I did a 12-month deployment to Iraq as a platoon leader. And with my business management experience in what I've done in the past 8 years outside of the Army, plus my leadership experience in the military, I really feel like I am well suited with my skill set to serve on the board. Although I don't have direct education establishment experience, what I will tell you is I do understand very deeply what it means to be a good educator, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you about my favorite teacher. Everyone else called him Mr. B, but I called him Dad. I grew up the daughter of a public school teacher, and I myself am a product of public education system. I spent many nights with my dad as he worked many hours overtime, dedicated to his students, and I saw the toll that it took on him. But I also saw the reward that he received. In fact, just the other day, he sent me a text message he received from a student from 30 years ago. Word for word, he said, "Mr. B, you saved my life." And that's the impact of public education. That's the impact that a teacher can have on a student's life. And I saw it firsthand, and I still see it because he still has students who reach out to him. So I understand very deeply what it means to have good public education and have good family values in that public education system and a partnership with parents. And I feel like I can bring this experience level, this compassion and sincerity, and my leadership experience to this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Foley. I'm a parent of a first grader that attends within the district. I moved to Lee Summit 10 years ago because of the quality and reputation of the school district. I've worked in healthcare for almost 20 years. I am the children's ministry leader for my church. I'm certified in Lean Six Sigma. I've served in my HOA, I've served in executive boards, and I'm a proud citizen of Lee Summit. My goal is to continually improve the district to be the best it can be. We have an awesome team of teachers, bus drivers, custodians, and other staff. We have some awesome systems in place, the district, and there are some processes that could be improved if we want to continually grow to our fullest potential. I'm an advocate for transparency and simplicity. An issue that I've raised awareness on is that processes are unclear to parents when they have concerns or even when they want to have praise or gratitude shared. When you search for grievance or complaint on the LSR-7 website, you wouldn't find steps to help someone to find who they should contact, and situations like that could be easily remedied. We can improve our standardization across the district. While most schools would call or robocall when a child is absent, I have shared the story of a teen who was absent for more than 30 days and her parents were not called. They found out when they received an email saying that they owed $424 for a laptop because their student had been unenrolled. We need equal access to the resources across the schools. When 20% of the student population are dyslexic, we cannot provide resources to only select schools. Parents should not have to hire private tutors to teach basic literacy. Requiring this only widens the achievement gap between students of different socioeconomic status. The board should be representative of the community it serves. I want to be a voice for the students, parents, teachers, and staff, and taxpayers. Anyone that has a stake in this district should be represented. Thank you.
Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Kelly Foxhoven, and I really do appreciate everybody coming out and everybody watching on the live stream as well. I have been a parent of an LSR-7 student for more than 20 years. We've had children who have participated in the advanced studies classes, like my daughter sitting here in the front. We've also had some children who have suffered some learning disabilities and other issues within the school district. So as I champion my children, I have learned to navigate throughout our current administration, our previous administration, all the way back, going back when we identified that our child did have dyslexia as well. We've had kids that have participated at Miller Park. For those of you who are familiar, that is our special needs school where we work with those kids specifically. I've had kids at STA. I've had kids that have worked in or have gone to school in the alternative school as well. We've also had kids that have done internship programs. So we have really spent the last 20 some odd years working through every single possible program within the LSR-7 district. So we've seen some good stuff. but we've seen some failings as well. And when I decided that I wanted to be a part of the school board for this fine district, it wasn't because I thought everything was perfect. And it wasn't because I thought I could come in and cowboy and change everything. It's because I wanted to be a part of a team that provided overall governance for our district. I understand that there are times when we hear silence, and I've navigated through that silence. But I also want to be able to lobby. I want to be able to work with the community. I want to be able to bring in additional programs. And I want there to be an equity throughout our entire school.
Thank you. William?
Time started now?
Yes.
Okay. William Lindsay, been a Lee Summit resident for 26 years. I have a wonderful wife who's a nurse. She could not attend tonight. And all three of my children have been through Lee Summit schools. And I will have to credit Lee Summit schools for preparing my children to be successful. They are all leading successful lives. As far as me, as qualifications, I've been a teacher for 20 years. In the urban core and some in the suburban areas. I have a BA in education from Graceland University, a master's in educational leadership from Baker University. Furthermore, I also got 12 years military, 13 years corporate business, and also, as I said, 20 years teaching experience. One of the things that, this was not on my agenda for this year. And I had several friends come and talk to me and say, Bill, why aren't you in this? Why aren't you in this? And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm getting ready to retire. I'm looking forward to life, you know, doing things with the wife and everything. And they said, you spent 2 years in the trenches. And these trenches have been the past 2 years of the pandemic. And things have changed. We have had to create ways to teach to these kids. We have had to adjust. We've had to modify. And I'll be quite frank, it's been very painful. But we are making the changes. And they said, you've been there. You know what's going on. You need to bring this to Lee Summit. You need to help these folks adjust and move forward. And I'm going to get into some, just a couple things here. Hopefully I have time for this, is we are potentially going to experience a budget shortfall. How do we handle that? Well, we need to look at what we're doing with our money, and I'll stop there and hopefully be able to answer that in the future.
Thank you. Joseph?
Where's the dust? How many of you remember that statement? Anyone? Famous. 1969, Neil Armstrong on the moon. He said 3 things when he went on the moon. 1 small step for man, 1 giant step for mankind. Where's the dust? The scientists at NASA had determined that there was going to be feet and feet of dust due to the fact that the Earth and the moon were millions and billions of years old. How much dust did they find on the moon? 2.5 inches. Today, when you hear playbacks of this monstrous event we all took place in, they don't say that third part. They cut it out. Because 2.5 inches is equivalent to about 2,000 to 10,000 years. And that's what the moon said that the Earth was age-wise. I'm worried about things being taken out of our education. I'm worried about facts being taken out like that. And I want to correct that. There are some books in our library, our school library, that I don't think belong in there. And I want to correct that. I have 4 college degrees, BA, 2 masters, and a doctorate. And I just want to be able to serve the people of this community because I've grown to love it so quickly. I've only been here 5 years, but it's like living in heaven compared to my last place of abode, New York City. I was there for 9 years. Gunshots, coming out of school, people shooting at girls standing next to me, a boy there who was.
Thank you. I'll let you close that in your closing remarks. That should be very interesting.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all for applauding during the opening remarks. We'd ask that during the questioning, simply because we're down to actually 70 minutes left of this, and we want to use as much of it as possible. If you'll hold your applause until the closing remarks, it'd be certainly appreciated. Just by a show of hands, how many have attended or watched a school board meeting in the last month? In the last 3 months? In the last 6 months? And any additional meetings prior to that? Very good. Thank you. We appreciate that. Now we're going to begin our question and answer session. We will rotate the questions, so since Mike Allen got to go first, Larry, you'll get the first question. We'll go down and come back. So, and you will have 1 minute for your answer. What do you see as the primary role as a school board member?
I think it's important to understand that over the last couple of decades, board leadership has changed from that of an overseer to that of a collaborator. And we need to understand that that creates some confusion, especially on inexperienced board members, on where the boundaries are on what the board members do and what the superintendent does. We've got to be able to promote learning without interfering with the learning process. So basically that requires board members need to identify what needs to be accomplished, provide the resources to accomplish that, and then turn it over to the superintendent and the district to figure out how to accomplish that. And that's the major role of what a school board member is doing.
Thank you. Heather?
Thank you. So the role of the school board member, if you've had any experience in organizational leadership, actually, it's very similar to business management or even the military, whereby you don't go multiple levels below you. So as a board member, you're going to be working directly with the superintendent, just to echo what Mr. Anderson said. This is true. So you're not taking on a specific responsibility operationally or et cetera, to go and do anything yourself. But a couple of things that are important as a board member working within the group, you are preserving, promoting, and growing a quality education system in the community. That's a major responsibility. You're ensuring that the students have all the resources that they need to be successful and being good stewards with the taxpayer's dollar, treating it as if it were your own. Another important thing that I think even as an individual is very critical is that as a board member, you are, just by virtue of your visibility, a leader. And so you are establishing the culture by how you behave. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
The primary role of a school board member is to set goals for the superintendent and to hold them accountable for that. So the school board leads the direction and they give that direction to the superintendent that then does the work, puts things into action, takes the steps to do the things that need to get done. So it's providing oversight and setting direction, but then letting the superintendent do what they need to do to accomplish those tasks, and then holding them accountable for that. So setting their goals, making sure they hit their goals. It's also important for someone in the school board to listen to the community and see what values are important in the community when they are assessing what they should ask the superintendent to do. And then I would also echo the financial stewardship. It's important to make sure that we are spending money wisely.
Melissa?
The role of in my purview, the role of a school board member is to provide financial and oversight governance for our school district. And to remember, as we're making these types of financial decisions, that we need to provide for every child that was in our district. We need to understand that we are there to work as a collaborative group with the other members and to work with our superintendent as well. That we understand that the overall scope of what we are doing is governance and oversight and providing education in a diverse and modern place.
Thank you. William?
Okay, I'm taking notes here. Overseer, collaborator, yes, absolutely. Helping, and I'm going to use the word assist the superintendent, because we hire superintendents to run our district, okay? And what we want to do is keep that superintendent accountable, but we also want to keep them on track so they can keep that management system that they put in place that is effective and help them improve the district and also help them improve themselves and everything. One thing that wasn't mentioned here is that as a school board member, we're accountable to you. You are the folks who are going to get us elected, and we need to listen to your voices. We would mention transparency. If we're not listening to you, we cannot be accountable to you. That's all I got to say.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
brother to my right here.
Joseph?
My brother to my right here just grabbed my last note. Representing constituents. I think that's your key role as a school board member. I have a website. I'm sorry, everyone has one just about here on Facebook. I expect, if elected, that you will write to me on that website. It's such a simple, easy way to get to me and give me suggestions, things that you see need to be changed, that you want done, and then I'll be able to act upon them.
Thank you. Mike?
All right, I've got to stand, keep the blood flow going, 58, right? By the way, I really appreciated the audience participation of the school board meetings attended. That was outstanding. You guys didn't pick it up, and I realize my time is fleeting, but good definitions over here. I agree with really the broad scope. I'll tell you what is missed. I didn't hear a lot of student focus in much of that, and I think ultimately we've got to worry about our students first and foremost. It's fun watching this audience because we have our kids here, young kids, we've got retired teachers, we got educators, we have board members. We answer to all of that. We hear from everybody. We are responsible for working with the city. I know that question may be coming because it was asked in the last two forums. We're responsible for working with each other. We're responsible for working with folks that disagree with us and agree with us. We listen to and hear teachers. We hear other communities. We hear the Missouri State School Board Association. But at the end of the day, man, we've got to cast the vision, create a positive culture, and know what the ends are and not dig into the means, and we've got to balance it. Thanks.
This next question, we'll start with Heather. Please share your thoughts on the Board of Education's 2022-2023 priorities.
Okay, I'm not sure if we're referring to this CSIP, but I'm going to take that as a CSIP question. So some of the thoughts that came to mind when I looked at the CSIP is I looked at that as compared to the survey that was sent out to the community and students and teachers and pretty much anybody who had a stake in LSR-7 education. And although there were many enlightening things, I think the one thing I would mention is that out of 62 people who were part of that CSIP, there were actually only 7 classroom teachers, which I did find fairly interesting because a lot of the topics that were most important were critical thinking and problem solving for our students being a #1 priority, hiring high quality educators, and providing academic support systems as being top priorities from that survey. And I thought it was interesting that as the group that was constructing the strategic plan, there were only 7 classroom educators who would be the ones that would maybe provide some very vital feedback to how we would accomplish those. I would like to see that more in the future, more teacher representation. Thank you.
Melissa? Oh, sorry, Jennifer.
So, one of the things that has stood out to me has been the high utilization of consultants and consulting agencies and the survey system of Panorama. So we are spending a significant amount of money on these outside agencies to help us move forward when we should be sometimes prioritizing some of that on actual academic focus, increasing arithmetic, reading, science scores, instead of focusing on some of the outside factors. We do need to promote belonging, inclusion, things like that. But the amount of money that we're spending on those programs is quite significant. And I think that money would be better allocated towards resources that actually improve test scores and have proven efficacy.
Melissa.
So I'd like to address 4 of the points for the upcoming school board. The 3 that I think are most important are support legislation. One specifically that I think is really important is support legislation stipulating the enactment of accurate and timely property tax assessments. And I think that that's super important. And then if you'll look down, I think the 5th one next would be support legislation that advances innovative instructional approaches in the pre-K through 12 public education, such as competency-based education, alternative assessment practices, real-world learning opportunities, and workforce credentialing. So if you've spent any time at all looking at my whys of what I think is important and why I would want to be a part of the school board, you know that I have championed those real-world experiences that we've got, and that's something that I think is really important.
Okay, William.
I have probably 3 or 4. Hopefully I can get them in a minute. Number 1 for me would be a support for our students. We need to get back to what we were. Academically, we've went backwards a little bit. We need to take it forward. Our students have lost confidence. Our students are concerned about, are we going to be virtual? Should we be virtual? We need to look at their well-being, their mental health, and how we can address that. We need to look out for our teachers. I look back at the situation with Coach Joe. Are we going to let those things come to a head in our school board? Should these things be taken care of where we don't potentially ruin a teacher's career and everything? And then also budgeting. Budgeting is a big thing with me because being in the school industry, I know there's probably going to be a shortfall. How do we address that?
All right, Joseph.
Teachers. Teachers are the most important part of our education process. They're flying away from the occupation throughout our nation. We have got a wonderful supply of teachers here in this school district, and we need to keep them here. Mental and physical stress on teaching. When they are out of that teaching, I want to get them into Legacy Park and all the surrounding facilities that we have here, wonderful facilities. We could do that for less than $240 a year per teacher. What a great stress reliever that area would be.
All right, Mike.
Well, I hate to ask, but will you repeat the question? Because
Absolutely. Please share your thoughts on the Board of Education's 2022-2023 priorities.
board priority, our current board priorities, or are they, is that the idea? Or what we believe they'll be our priorities moving forward? Board priorities, okay, thank you. Because I believe our 3 priorities, generally speaking, to make decisions based on equity, right? Equity of opportunity and equity lens for hiring and our students. I had a friend say, well, geez, equity's been hijacked by the far left. Well, no, equity's not been hijacked. Equity is that, equity of opportunity, equity of access. I don't know why that's so difficult to comprehend, but that's what we try to do. There's no outcome guarantee. So let's just put that out on the table. We have an equity lens that we try to hire, we try to provide for kids. Straightforward. All of us are diverse, all of us are different in this room, all of us bring different strengths and ideas, challenges. So let's create and pull down the challenges that are there for some students that can't get there. The other, I believe, is achievement, right? Let's address the achievement gap, curriculum assessment, priorities, and then the third is better communication, quite frankly. So, sorry, let me one last statement.
Mike?
All right.
All right, thank you. Larry Anderson?
Thank you. You know, the community told the school district one of the priorities that we have is the social and emotional well-being of our students as a result of the pandemic. And recently, the school board just unanimously passed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, to provide services as a pilot program to support kids in a certain number of buildings for the social and emotional behavior stresses because of the last 2 years. So I'm really impressed with that, and I think that is a good way to go, and in the future, I hope to promote that for every building in the school district.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start with Jennifer. Over and above what's required by law, how transparent should a school board be? And provide examples to support your position.
I think school boards should be as transparent as possible all the time. I think it is very important for our community to know why decisions are made the way that they are, and to fully understand as much of the behind-the-scenes discussions as possible. One of the things that I've heard from a lot of the members in our community is that they feel like they've lost trust. They feel like decisions are made when they've heard the opposite beforehand. They feel like sometimes votes are even switched. And that perception shouldn't be there. But the reason they feel this way is because they don't see explanations. They don't hear from these people, you know, why they made the decision that they made. And we know that the board, once they make a decision, they have to stand behind that decision together with solidarity. You know, if it's a 6-1 vote, 5-2, 3-4, 7-0, whatever it is, when they walk away, they stand together, but they can still talk about why they made the decision they made it and made it clear for the community.
Thank you. Melissa?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Over and above what is required by law, how transparent should a school board be? And provide examples to support your position.
Well, I believe it's critically important that we have transparency in our school board. I think it's obvious. We can go to multiple places. You can go to board docs and you can take a look at decisions made and the processes that have been done. Even in the closed sessions, you can take a look at what the outcomes are there. I think it's also important that we provide opportunities for people to attend school board meetings so that they can hear firsthand what's going on. We have gone above that. We video those, and those are available for everyone to review, even if they're not able to attend. I think it's important that we understand that we voted the board in. So we made a decision when we cast our vote. Whether or not we're happy with the individuals who won, it doesn't matter. These individuals are who we chose, and they are then going to represent us and make the decisions. If we're not happy or comfortable, we have an opportunity to send them a message and let them know that that's not something we're comfortable with. But in the end, this is our elected board. So we have an opportunity to review decisions that are made. We have an opportunity to attend, and we have an opportunity to speak out.
Thank you. William?
I agree with Ms. Foxhoven. There are avenues to access information. The transparency is there. Probably not what we'd like to see. But one thing I would like to see is we have a lot of folks in our community that are not educated how to access this. And maybe if we put on some displays like such as tonight, where we could get these folks educated on how to access this, because we have people in our community that even have they can't access the computer correctly and everything. And a lot of our stuff is through the technology now. So making that access easier. One thing about the transparency I would say is this. We do have a new website in the school district, which I'm very impressed with. It's come a long way, and that will improve that. But through that website, we can also improve the access.
Thank you. Joseph?
Transparency. This is something that should totally be shown through the school board. The reason being, we are instruments of your voting. We are to report to you. We are there for you. We're doing what you want us to do. And that's why I want you to contact me on the website, on the internet. It's such an easy thing to do. You have every right to get what you want done on that school board. And the way to do that is through us. And we must be totally transparent with you because you have elected us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Allen.
Thank you, sir. I would say we have tried to be completely open and transparent as possible. Closed sessions are for basically real estate, personnel discussions, contracts, real estate. That's it. Certainly, third point of our priorities were to improve communication, and I believe Bill nailed it. We have a new website. The website, I think, is great. It'll take some time to understand and navigate that. But our meetings are posted, work sessions are posted. We work on due diligence of not having more than 3 people in a room because that makes a majority if you have 4. We have our board secretary, our attorney, each other to hold each other accountable in closed session. I look at Roderick right here because he's at times said, hey, this is discussion that's open. We need to continue to be open. If there's not somebody that on the board right now that has talked about transparency and openness, it's Roderick Sparks, so kudos. For, group participation. So that's it. We try to be there. Maybe we've over-communicated, and that's maybe complicated some issues. We'll keep it up.
And Larry.
So board members have two masters to serve. One is the inner workings of the school district, and the other is the community. And it's very important for school board members to show the community that they're working and they're trying to make tough decisions. They're trying to ask hard questions. They're requesting information from the superintendent to make the right answers. And it's important that the community sees the school board working in the open, asking these questions so that there is no reason for suspicion. But at the same time, running a school district is extremely technical. And a lot of times we have to spend a lot of time making these decisions. And boards want to be in unison. When they come out with a motion on the floor, they want to be all yes. So that's the dynamic that you have to be careful about. You don't want it to look like you're rubber stamping what the superintendent wants. At the same time, you have to provide information that the community needs.
Thank you. Heather?
I definitely think that a school board needs to be as transparent as possible whenever possible. I think it's really important that when, in particular, if there is a decision that's made that's very controversial, that the board be very clear, not just in the board meeting, but having a way to summarize what happened and being very clear about the factors that impacted the decision, why they came to the decision that they did, especially when you being as a board maybe get a sense that the community is restless or feeling a little bit of mistrust, then it's really critically important that the board make an extra effort to be as transparent and clear as possible. I think also the community would appreciate maybe less of a PR package when information is presented, and maybe it won't feel like it's so buttoned up and feel a little more genuine, that whatever is coming out to the public is not just something that's kind of been, presented through rose-colored glasses. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question starts with Melissa Foxhoven. Have you been satisfied by the district's approach to the pandemic? And please explain.
Well, to some degree, yes, and to other degrees, no. So we've never experienced a pandemic before. And I work in HR. When I hire someone, I like to see that they've had experience doing the job that I'm going to put them in. However, no one had experience in a pandemic. No one knew exactly what was expected. Nobody knew how to navigate. What I did like was I liked the fact that they did, whether it was transparent or not, they did bring in experts and ask questions, important questions. Their first goal when I would talk to school board members was keeping the kids and the teachers as safe as possible. Things I probably would have asked as a board member to do differently would be to bring experts in to talk to the kids and to the parents. We didn't do that. I think that was important.
William?
Okay, great question. Overall, I would give the district a passing score. And I say that because of this, as Ms. Foxhoven said, brand new. We had to adjust. And one thing that I would like to see is this. What the pandemic did is it forced us into a reactive environment versus a proactive environment. And the lesson I would like our district to learn from this is prior to the pandemic, we had a very proactive board, looking ahead, planning for the future. Now we have been exposed to something that has just been crazy. So now we have the opportunity as a board, and that's one of my priorities, is to become a proactive board that is planning, preparing, and making sure we're making good decisions rather than a reactive board.
Joseph?
The pandemic was handled extremely well in this community, I believe. I'd hate to think of what happened back in New York City when this pandemic hit. However, I'm talking about here, so I'm thinking about my 15-year-old daughter who took courses on the computer and did extremely well. The teachers were very personal. She contacted her teachers many times, just as she would be able to do in school on a personal level, and they answered her questions. And I think it was just a really fine showing for a very tough situation by a school system.
Thank you, Chip. I think this answer may be met by different folks depending on your perspective. But I'll tell you, we tried to take the best advice that we could at the time from a variety of different means, from both a national level, a worldview, local Jackson County Health Department, our local medical panel. I mean, I applaud Dr. Buck and leadership because they called on some local medical experts to see what was happening as best they could in our community and in our school district. So, you know, what do you say? You sort of worked on the plane while you were flying it. But we tried to make the strongest decisions that we could at the time that we had it. I mean, I have a chart from our own school's, COVID website or whatever we're going to call this thing. And as you watch the blue and the red, you address it accordingly. We didn't make frivolous decisions based on the fact that this pandemic was killing people. I'm not overstating that. I'm just making a factual statement. So,
Larry?
If I was on the board at that time having to make that decision, that would have been one of the most difficult decisions I would have ever had to make. Knowing that learning in school is very important, but so is the safety of my child and my constituents' children. When you drop your kids off at the front door or they get on that bus, the schools district is responsible for the safety of your kids. And mothers, you can go to work knowing that they're going to be safe. And that is the priority. So I am grateful that they choose to make sure that my kids were safe rather than risk anything else. I'm grateful that they listen to authorities who know how to make these decisions and what is the best decision for the safety of my kids. And I think they did well.
Heather?
I understand that the pandemic was unprecedented and that the board was under a tremendous amount of pressure and stress. That being said, I would have liked to see more parent feedback involved in some of these decisions. Early in the pandemic, the board actually sent out a survey regarding where they would prefer their children be in school, online, in person. Over almost 80% of the parent feedback was they wanted to be in person. Why couldn't we do something similar to masks and allow parents to have that say over what relative risk they wanted to have over their kids? Provided N95 masks for any teacher who wanted to use it. Use some of those ESSER funds to upgrade some of the HVAC systems to improve ventilation. Doing some of those things, which may be, in fact, what is in the plan. But I would have, bottom line, liked to have seen more parental decision making and more parental involvement, because there were children who were negatively impacted by some of the decisions that were made in the name of safety. Thank you.
Jennifer?
I would like to echo just a little bit about what she said in regards to the feedback from parents. So there was a survey that was sent out asking whether parents preferred their children to be, in person, online, hybrid, that kind of thing. And parents wanted their children in schools. But then that wasn't the decision that was made after that survey results came out. And so that is something that just didn't sit well with people. If you're going to ask for feedback, why not follow that feedback? We all know that hindsight's 2020. There was a lot of things about the pandemic that we just really couldn't have foreseen, and nobody really knew what things were going to be like. There were some good things. The district made it obvious that they cared about the safety of our students, and that was a priority. But there was things that could have been better. We could have been supporting the teachers better when they were learning a brand new online platform when they had to teach virtually. That had to be so difficult for teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is a question that comes from the audience, and William, we will begin with you. In what ways can you increase parent participation in the classroom once elected?
That's a really good question, because one of the things that I do as a teacher and in the charter school where I work is we are very involved with our parents. We invite them in. They can come through our doors. Even now, they come through our doors. But we have to reach out. We've got to send out information to these parents and let them know it's okay. We've got to welcome them in. We cannot look at them with a frown and say, you're not welcome, with that frown. We've got to encourage them to come in. We've got to make, as teachers, what we do. One thing I do as a teacher, and I love this question, is we are constantly calling our parents, whether it be a good call or a bad call. We are keeping the communication going. And when we make those calls that are, you can say, problematic, we turn it into a problem-solving situation and we make it better. But we need to open the doors.
Thank you. Joseph?
Parents are co-educators of the children. We are the secondary educators. The parents are the ones that educate primarily. They teach them morals, they teach them ABCs, they teach them 1, 2, 3, all the way from the beginning of life. We are only cooperating with them. And so we must realize that the parents are the primary educators of their students and teach them and treat them that way.
Mike Allen.
One more time, repeat the question, just so I'm clear.
In what ways can you increase parent participation in the classroom once elected?
Well, ultimately, that's some micromanagement, but I will tell you that we would encourage our superintendent to make sure that the communication is always open and transparent, and that teachers would welcome that input. I mean, look at this room. look at this district, look at this community. Parent involvement in this community has been fantastic. We have an opportunity to continue to grow on that. It was difficult when the doors were essentially shut and you had to communicate via Zoom, but we have a great opportunity to create a new course or go back to a course that was 2018-19. We found that communication with our teachers have been open, honest, direct. Emails come back, input gets back. If it's asked and requested, communication is there.
Larry.
You know, when I think about the grade school kids, I remember that the parent involvement at that age was very high, and oftentimes teachers had to turn parents away because there were just too many people. You can't have too many people in the classroom at the same time. But as we progress into the higher grades, parent involvement can be more in tune to making sure the students get the homework done, making sure that they're aware of what the requirements are in the classrooms, and offering to communicate with the teacher more often than what happens. Usually what happens is the parents find out at the last minute that the student doesn't have a homework due, and then they send an email to the teacher, a la, I understand this from my personal experience with my wife, that, oh my gosh, we got a crisis. So it's really kind of up to the parents, because there is no teacher that will say, no, I don't need your help. It's just we have to manage how much help in the classroom can we really have. And we have to make sure that we communicate with the parents, and the parents are communicating back.
Thank you. Heather?
So I'll echo a little bit about what Mr. Allen said, in that it is a little bit of a micromanagement question, because you're not supposed to, as a board member, really be delegating to that level. But I would think we, as board members, could encourage, as part of one of the superintendent's focuses or goals, to maybe find some best practices for teachers that do have good parent engagement, and how they cultivated that, if it just happened to fall in their laps just because they're in a building with very highly engaged parents. Or if maybe there was a teacher who had some success in trying to engage parents who were previously not engaged, and maybe use your successful educators to find solutions to that problem, and just get some best practices that might help bring parents to the table. Yeah, I don't have a full minute. That's it. So thanks.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I think as a board member, we can communicate out to the public that there are opportunities to serve in the classrooms and on committees. That's something that we should be sharing as much as possible, because we do have a lot of people who say, how can I help? I don't know how to help. And that's something that we can share, while also we can delegate that task to the superintendent to work through the staff to share the information as well. I also think it's important to note that we cannot just depend on email or forms that we send home with the children. We need to call parents, because we can also have parents in our district who may have literacy issues, and we want to be inclusive to them as well. We want to make sure that every parent can be reached and can know that there are opportunities to help within the classroom.
Melissa.
I think that working as a board member, getting into those minute details can get a little complicated, especially if we're going to have issues be brought forth to the school board. So we want to make sure that we're not getting into those nitty-gritty details. However, I do think as a board member, it is important to work in conjunction with the administration to provide additional information to parents so that they have insight how to get information back and forth. So oftentimes when people think of parental involvement, they think of field trips and Valentine's Day parties and, coming in and helping and reading and things like that. But there's additional opportunities for parents to be involved as well. So you're right when we talk about there being a governance level and not getting into those minute details, but we can also work with the administration to provide additional resources for our parents to be involved.
Thank you. Our next question is for Joseph Yakujenski. Are you satisfied with the curriculum currently being utilized by the district? If not, what changes should be made?
I believe that the board has done tremendous amount of study and work upon curriculum. It's the basis of the board. They have gone through several curriculums, picked out the best ones from each of the presenters of the curriculums, and have done a tremendous amount of research upon that prior to their choosing. I don't think that's one of the problems we need to be concerned with the school board.
Mike?
Yes, I'll answer that with a quick yes. And I'll tell you, curriculum is developed kind of a top-down and bottom-up. Teachers at whatever grade level tend to collaborate, find what they can utilize in the classroom, hold each other accountable, find those resources that meet state guidelines and state standards. They'll move that up the chain. Your assistant superintendents and the folks that are working the student services area then evaluates, watches whatever they watch on the video, and make sure, again, that it's within the parameters that continue to drive students to their highest achievement while maintaining guidelines headed up by DESE.
All right, Larry?
So I just completed over 8 hours of whirlwind meetings with the directors at Stansbury. And one of the directors was director of curriculum. And I asked him to explain about his program and how the process works for developing these curriculums. And so he told me that the teachers are the ones who develop these curriculums. I make sure that the curriculums are abiding by what the state of Missouri requires that they be taught. So yes, I am satisfied with the curriculums. We have fantastic teachers who develop these high quality curriculums and implement in their classrooms. So I think it's very important to understand where the curriculums come from. It comes from the ground up, from teachers who have experience, who know the material, and who know how to teach it. The upper management is about making sure that we're meeting the state requirements. So I do think that it's very good done, very well done.
Heather?
With regard to curriculum, the one thing that I would say is I kind of go back to some of the feedback from the local community as far as business owners and the skills that are coming out of our schools and what some students might be missing. And I think one of the hot topics that some business leaders have provided feedback on is a struggle with some of the critical thinking aspects of being able to graduate with a complex understanding of how to deconstruct problems and bigger issues and just kind of dealing with something big picture. And I realize that's not a specific curriculum question, but if it all feeds into building skills for our students, then we need to make sure that there's some element of that curriculum that is reinforcing that and improving that, because the feedback from the marketplace, from the workplace, is that those skills might be lagging behind. So I don't have a suggestion on how to fix that because, frankly, I'm not an educator, but I rely on our skilled educators to work on that. Thank you.
Jennifer?
I think overall, our educators do an awesome job at preparing curriculum and reviewing it for the district. One thing I think in particular that I am very excited about is that I've learned more about the Diploma Plus program that they are pushing, because the district has realized that there is a need in our community for some people to have opportunities beyond just going to a four-year university. So they have access to resources where people can learn trades like plumbing and heating and cooling, and that is supported through the district. And I think it is really important for us to share that information with parents and families so that they know that these options are available and that they can be more highly utilized. I also do think it is important that we have access to structured literacy programs at all schools. And I know that is something that is currently being worked on, but I think it's something that is of very high importance because we do have a problem with literacy that we need to address.
Melissa?
I've been very impressed with the curriculum development throughout all of my children's experience within LSR-7. So when I would see something that I felt was lacking, specifically addressing the literacy and reading programs that we currently had, I would voice that concern to a teacher and then again to an administrator. I have seen curriculum being developed. Project Lead the Way is something that's been amazing. That's a specific student-driven critical thinking program that's amazing. As we begin to grow that, we can invite more and more students into that, which is really important. But I've also seen special needs programs where curriculum has been developed, where we have seen a expansive growth in helping these children who are special needs, learning delayed or reading delayed. And that to me is incredibly impressive within our district.
Right. William?
Okay, one of the big things that's been hit on is literacy. If you look at the data in our district, literacy needs some improvement. That's all over the United States. Our math practices, writing, let's make sure when we do this, yeah, I'm happy. Things are working, things are happening, but when you set a curriculum, you also get professional development from the people that you contract with. Make sure that when you contract with these folks, that you make sure they're going to do their part and bring in what you need. And then also within the district have in-house professional development, that there's a collaboration going on between the teachers and even the parents. I think the parents need to be involved in this because their voice needs to be heard on their ideas on how we can improve literacy. But get that involved, and we're going to see some improvement there. I'm working on a project with my school. We've been working on it for almost a year, and yeah, it's a process.
Thank you. The next is a question that I'm going to need a show of hands, and I do need you to keep your hand up so I know who to come back to with the follow-up question. The Board of Directors adopted an education equity policy in December of 2021. How many of you have read the policy? Okay. So I'll make sure I come in the right order here. Yeah, we'll start with Mike. Do you agree with the policy, and please explain?
Well, I do agree with the policy and help formulate some of the language that was in it. I addressed it in my opening comments, and I believe that equity of opportunity is where we've based that policy. Our equity plan has been on our website and shared repeatedly and reported on repeatedly. And if we can meet each student where they are with what they need, that's our goal. I had somebody push back and say, well, how are you ever going to meet that? What about this issue or that issue? Well, if we don't try, we're never going to get there. And again, folks think equity is based on some color of a skin. It goes beyond that. It's every shape, size, form, special services, situation, all of it. And each person brings a different experience to the table, a different background to the table. And I think it's our job and responsibility to meet those students where they are and give them an opportunity that's equitable across the board.
Larry, again, do you agree with the policy, and please explain?
Yes, I do. And quite frankly, when I campaigned before, if you go back and look, my platform was we needed an equity policy. And the reason I said that is we needed a beacon that we could shoot for. We need to get something down in the policies of the school district so that we can continue to shoot for that goal. And guess what? It happened. Although I wasn't a part of it, I certainly advocated for it 2 years ago. So I'm glad to see that, and I'm glad to see that now we can continue to work towards equity in the school district and meeting the needs of all children, providing all children, even those not in the room, with the resources they need to be successful. That is the priority of the public school system, is to teach all kids the resources they need to be successful. Heather?
Thank you. Yes. I I think there are elements of the equity policy that I support with regard to providing each student the opportunity that they need, the resources that they need in order to be successful. I 100% agree. Every student doesn't start with the same set of tools, and we need to make sure that we're providing them the resources to be able to be successful. I think I really appreciate that in the equity policy that they affirm high academic expectations as a standard for the equity policy, because there are no such things as equal outcomes to be guaranteed in anything, especially education. One area of concern for me is the strong emphasis on identity affirmation and support. I just want to make sure that in our public education system we're involving parents when it comes to questions of students' identities, and making sure that that's a collaborative effort amongst the family and the school. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer.
In the equity policy, I think something that's important to address is not only cultural background and identity, but also, socioeconomic status and special needs. I want to make sure that all of those issues are addressed when you're accounting for access for education for students. One of the things that I have found challenging about the policy is actually more of the implementation. So we have been spending an exorbitant amount on consultants. From 2019 to 2022, we have spent over $1.1 million on equity consultants. But then when you actually look at the efficacy of that to see if it has fixed the achievement gap, you won't find improvement, and that's concerning. I think we can better wisely spend this money to make sure that all students have the tools that they need so that everyone can have access to a good education.
Melissa.
I actually was very impressed with the equity plan as it came out. I do work in HR, so we spend a lot of time talking about equity and access when we are making hiring decisions and we are putting together teams. I also wanted to mention that I think it's very important that we do engage experts. We are not experts in equity or inclusion or even curriculum development so that it is available at an equitable access for every single child. So it is important to engage those experts to be able to offer guidance. This plan has recently gone through. We do not have 2 years of full data that we can report back and show progress or non-progress yet. So to say we do not have improvement yet is I think a little premature. But I am impressed that we are looking towards a modern and inclusive environment, especially since we're going to be hiring these people soon.
William.
Okay. I like what Mike said. Meet students where they are with what they need. Question, how do we do that? And I think this is all part of the plan is we have to find ways of testing. That's for the special ed. That's also for those students who are on the curve. But on the socioeconomic status, that's where our social workers, that's where our counselors within the school can help us with that, because those are the ones, and I can't recall the book, but they wrote a book about it. They get lost. They're lost in the system. And we need to make sure that we are not losing students in the system. And if that, I believe they're trying to address that, but as my friend here said, Ms. Foxhoven, we do not have enough data to show yet. And hopefully within this next year, we can come through and show that data to prove that the plan is working.
Thank you. Joseph, I understand you said you had not read the report. Is that right? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'd just like to remind the audience to please keep our applause till the end. Thank you. This next question is for Larry Anderson. Do you believe that critical race theory is being taught in our schools? If so, what evidence do you have? Can you give examples?
Look, I think we can all agree that racism is evil. I think that's obvious. But I also believe that CRT, the anger with CRT, is misplaced. You know, I get that parents are angry because their children are being blamed, or they think that their children are being blamed for mistakes that ancestors made a long time ago. And that somehow that these kids have to repent of that, or else they're part of the problem. I get that. But what I don't get is that we're interfering with the learning process and the ability for teachers to teach about racism, about slavery, critically. We cannot teach students critically if we don't have all the information. We need students to be able to make the right decisions for a better future for themselves and for us.
Just a clarification for the panel. This is a question from the audience, too. So, Heather? Absolutely. Do you believe critical race theory, CRT, is being taught in our schools? If so, what evidence do you have, and can you give examples?
So, no, it's not technically being taught, but let me just define what we're talking about here. When we talk about CRT, a lot of that popular term is really just lumped in for any sort of education about racism for most of the public. But CRT is a theoretical framework for examining systems. And the assumption under CRT is that those systems are racist or biased towards minorities. So that's the assumption you're working under when you're looking at a system through the lens of CRT. And the concern is when we use, for example, our PD, the authors who authored that professional development for our teachers. Floyd Cobb uses CRT to examine education system in many of his works. So when someone is looking at the system that way, I think the concern is that it's going to come through in how your teachers or your educators are looking at their students, and then that mentality is then going to kind of bleed through to the students. So I don't think anything is directly being taught, but it's subtle and it's a slow drip. Thank you.
Jennifer?
So, do I believe that college level theory is being taught in the schools? No. But when you look at that question and you ask, why is this even being asked in the first place? Are parents really concerned about the words CRT? No. What they are concerned about is whether or not their children are being taught that they're oppressed or they're an oppressor based on their skin color. And that is not something that we should be having in our community. Our children all should be learning that we are all a community that should be together. We should be learning empathy. We should be working together as a society for the common good and just learning to get along with everyone. We shouldn't have divisive curriculum, and that's what they're asking about. They're asking, are we being taught something that is divisive? And so that is something that we should always, keep in mind and look into, because really they're not concerned whether or not they're getting college curriculum.
Melissa?
So CRT was initially developed in the 70s when a gentleman went to prison and he noticed that there were inequitable punishments for certain individuals. So he put together a plan with other people to examine the laws that are currently in place and the outcomes of those laws based on individuals, specifically at the time of the color of their skin. Were those laws enacted equitably? And taking that framework, they were able to expand it and take a look at how education, how laws, how all of these things are implemented and reviewed based on demographics. So those are things are really important, right? We want to make sure that laws are being enacted equitably and that everyone is given an opportunity for education in an equitable manner. We are not teaching CRT in our classrooms. I can tell you for 20 plus years, CRT is not being taught in our schools.
William?
I would encourage everybody here to look up critical race theory. There's 5 main tenets. I'm not going to go over them here because I don't have the time to do that. There's 3 main tenets that affect education. No evidence of that being taught in our school district. The There are evidence in other school districts where the evaluation systems are not here, but the evaluation systems our teachers are based upon CRT, and also the even the hiring of individuals. So it's out there, but it's not being taught. I haven't seen a curriculum on it, or there's even things on it being taught. I mean, other than the college level, and that's not, we're not teaching our students at the college level here, at the LSR-7, but it's something that's going to be a discussion, and we need to take it seriously and look respectfully at all sides of it.
Joseph?
We are all of the family of the children of God here on this earth. We are not different in that aspect, and that's the main aspect of our lives. Heather, I concur with greatly on her points. I believe that the more that this subject is brought up, the more it exists. I don't believe it is something that you need to bring up. It's there. And if you just live as if your peoples were brothers and sisters, that's the way that would solve the problem. And it has solved the problem for many people.
Mike?
Doctor, I appreciate that, and I agree with you. All brothers and sisters in the society, we are not teaching critical race theory. Did we not just discuss how curriculum is being developed in this district? We understand what it is. This idea that critical thinking, not how to think, but to critically think about our history, what we have, what we've learned, what history is exactly where our students should be. I don't know, I mean, this issue is driven by such rhetoric at a national level. I cannot believe that we sit here and actually think that LSR-7 teaches critical race theory. I really cannot believe it. I believe we have the best teachers in the best situation with an environment that they are trusted and trustworthy, and our curriculum is developed to meet our standards of the state.
Thank you. We're going to take a little, not left turn, but a little turn to a different area that is especially pertinent with the legislature still in session. And there's certainly all sorts of legislative priorities and things like that that affect the school board, the school district, and schools all across the state of Missouri. So we'll begin with Heather. How should the school district prepare if legislation on charter school expansion is passed?
Well, I think the best thing that the district can do is to focus on high quality academics and to focus on what the stakeholders are looking for, and the stakeholders being the parents who are putting their students in the schools. And if we focus on academics and just the core of the reason why the students are there, then we're not going to have to really worry about a lot of students wanting to leave the district. This is a high-performing district in comparison to the state of Missouri's averages and other neighboring districts. We have quality teachers. Our test scores are above average. They can still improve, but they are above average. And we have high-quality offering for extracurriculars and other advanced academics. So I think LSR-7 is in a great position. We just continue to focus on delivering a high quality product to our families and our students. And I don't think you're going to have a lot of people who are trying to attrit out of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I agree that the focus of the district, should something like that pass, is just to make it to be the best it can be, to really make sure that we are just the place where everybody wants to go to get a good education. I definitely think that one of the things that we can focus on, something that I've been talking about a lot, is structured literacy and making sure that we really advocate for those with special needs, so that we keep those families within the district because they know they can get the support here and they don't have to seek it elsewhere. We have so many great teachers, just great staff. We have so many opportunities within the district. And I think if we just continue to focus on that, then I think we would do great, if something like that would pass.
Thank you. Melissa.
If something like this were to pass, I think it's important that the BOE focus on the financial aspect of how this is going to specifically impact our students within our district. I think it's important that we make a plan and that we incorporate both the loss and the cost of what a charter school is going to, what this is going to cost our district. Definitely need to focus on the financial aspect.
William.
Being at a charter school, I would have to say this. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it here in Lee Summit, because if you have a school district that's working, they're not going to want to plant one here because they're not going to be able to get the students to go there. We also have private schools that are doing great. We have a great homeschooling system here where people are doing great teaching their kids at home. So if that does pass, and it happens to come this way, we'll just deal with it. We'll talk about it, and if it's something, we'll make it work. But personally, I don't see it coming.
Thank you. Joseph.
It is virtually the constitutional right of every person to have their child educated as they wish. If we try to refrain them from sending students to charter schools, we are breaking the Constitution. Every person should be able to have their child educated the way they wish.
Thank you. Mike.
Rodney, I'll stick to the question as best I can because I don't have enough time to talk about what's going on in Jefferson City right now. But in working with and being engaged with 6 superintendents of this district over the past basically 30 years I've been here, each superintendent has said competition is fine. Charter schools, whatever it is, competition is fine, but let's play by the same rules in the same playing field. I agree, man. These answers have been great. Focus on achievement, focus on curriculum, provide the students what they need, provide them where they are. The rules aren't the same. That's been the biggest issue. There's no elected board of education. It's administrated. The administration is typically a sponsor agency or a private agency. Costs are higher. It's phenomenal to me that the games that are played out of Jefferson City impact local school districts, and yet we don't have a lot of input at times or persuasion. Keep the relationship, the communication going, and let's play by the same set of rules.
Thank you. Larry.
Would you repeat it, please? Thank you.
How should the school district prepare if legislation on charter school expansion is passed?
I'm sorry, prepare for the legislation if it's passed? Okay. All right. So this is a new one, and I think one of the obvious things that we would be looking at is what is the impact to our district? How many students are going to take advantage of the charter school if there is a school in our city? So what are the financial impacts to that? Another part of that is what does that mean for busing? Is it going to be a major impact or not? We may need to develop policies because there may be requests to use our public facilities for their schools. We may have to address that and look at that in the future. So we will have to start developing these ideas of forward thinking. In other words, anticipating what kinds of impacts may come at us and begin the process of initiating a plan that is in place so that when it does happen, we're ready for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question is for Jennifer Foley. How would you educate our local and state elected officials of our school district goals and ideas and encourage their support?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. How would you educate our local and state elected officials of our school district's goals and ideas and encourage their support?
So if we're wanting to let people know about our goals and just communicate with them, I think the answer is just straightforward communication. I think it's just important for the board to share what our priorities are and to let legislators know that this is what we want for our district. This is what our community values. And just to be open and transparent about where our community lies in the different issues that are facing our society right now. I know that there are just so many bills that get passed or presented at the state level, and so it's very hard to address every single one, but our district can just communicate as best we can as what we find a priority or a value or the issues that we're facing at the moment that we think are the most critical to be addressed.
Melissa?
So I'm going to address this in two parts. So as a LSR-7 citizen and parent, I have engaged my local and my state representatives when I am concerned about a specific bill. So I will email, I will call. There's a certain state senator who I know the secretary's first name if I feel like I want my voice to be heard. And I think that that is critically important. I share information on my Facebook if I feel like there is a bill that's passing that could potentially harm more than it could be good, or if there's something good coming up, I will present that as well. From a board perspective, I think it's a little bit different. There are committee members that do go to Jeff City and they do speak directly with Desi and they do speak directly with those representatives. And I think that that's critically important.
William?
I'll use the late Rebecca Raber as a great example. Rebecca made sure she was in contact with LSR-7 board members. Rebecca was a former educator, and she took that to the State House. But Rebecca also, this works two ways. Our state team needs to keep in touch with us on any changes that are coming. So we need to keep them within our, as people used to say, make sure all the eggs are in the mother's basket. We need to keep the eggs in the mother's basket. And we need to make a just aggressive effort to make sure that we are in those relationships and everything, and they are informed, but we also need to hear their ideas on education too, and maybe try to implement those ideas into what we're doing.
Joseph?
Notifications can be sent to these gentlemen and ladies of the legislative process of our area. Parents and teachers are oftentimes well acquainted with these people and can voice these prospects to them of our educational process. The encouragement that these people respond with ideas of their own and thoughts and processes that they would like to see implemented into our educational system would be a veritable source of benevolence to our community.
Mike?
Thank you. I love the question. I've been to Jefferson City far too often over the past however many years. I'm from Jeff City. I often joke, because I can beat up on my hometown, Jeff City's best seen in the rearview mirror. But this type of material, 2021, 2020, 2019, legislative events that we have legislators back and here and for conversation. Dr. Buck encourages relationships. Tony Stansberry was fantastic at going to Jefferson City. I had the chance to talk with Matt Bartle, right? Former representative, former state senator. He and I met I don't know, a year or two ago, and he said, I would lean on Dr. Stansbury for educating him, as a state representative and senator about school board issues. Relationships matter. Walking in with a handshake versus fists up matter. They want to hear from folks. They enjoy the conversations, and they want the facts and details, just like we want the facts and details. It's phenomenal how many folks don't go to Jeff City or make that phone call. Make the phone call, write the letter. It's great.
Larry?
This is something that I have quite a bit of experience with. I've advocated for public education in Washington, D.C., as well as Jefferson City. And there's nothing more powerful than getting in front of an individual and telling your story. However, the next step after that is numbers do matter. So not just one individual from the board, it's the board's responsibility as a whole to go to Jefferson City, go to Washington, and make their words heard. And then on top of that, we could recruit other districts around us, and all of us descend upon Jefferson City at the same time, demanding that we speak to the legislation and hear our words, hear our message. It's harsh, and they need to hear it. Imagine if all of the school boards in the state banded together and said, we want to be fully funded, how powerful that would be. So, yes, it's a step in the right direction, and the ultimate goal would be wonderful.
Heather?
I think it's important to stay engaged with your local representation and just keep open lines of communication. Not just reaching out to them, but inviting them into the district to see maybe the struggles, but also the successes, and make sure that you're kind of conveying via experience what it is that you're trying to ensure that they know is a priority to the district. Obviously, being present in Jeff City is important, and representing the district as a board. Those are all great ways to stay engaged and make sure that the legislature understands what's important to our district and what the concerns are. But I think at the very core of it, it's just communication and making sure that you are involved as a board and as an individual board member in communicating with the local representation. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a question that, frankly, 15 years ago we wouldn't have asked, or 20 years ago we wouldn't have asked. And we'll start with Melissa here. With the recent school shooting in Kansas, are you satisfied with the district's steps to ensure safety at our schools, or should more be done? And provide specifics.
You know, we talk about the recent shooting in Kansas. There have been mass shootings throughout the United States. So referencing this one, honestly, I think is very short-sighted. Do I feel like I actually just addressed something very similar in a Facebook forum yesterday. Do I think that our teachers and our school counselors and our administrators need specific training in identifying particular issues that could advance to this type of thing? I do, because like COVID, we weren't prepared. We'd never done this before. I think it's important for our teachers to receive, or our entire school district to receive additional training so that we can identify, not so that we can potentially prevent these types of things.
William.
As you know, our society is changing. Recently had a situation, a friend from another school, a student came in carrying a weapon, concealed, and was in the school most of the day. Could have been in my classroom. The gun was loaded. When the kid was approached, they asked him, "Do you know how to shoot this thing?" And he said, "The safety's on." So yes, I don't know the situation, and I think it probably needs to be a discussion within the board here at Lee Summit on a review of the procedures. What is happening? What can we do to make sure that we're safe? Now, my number one concern is students. We don't want to have a situation that like happened in Colorado many years ago. But we're seeing our society change. That's scary. As a teacher, I fear too.
Thank you. Joseph?
Every school system thinks it will never happen here. And yet we see on the television virtually monthly school shootings. You can see when you go to our schools, when you try to walk into a school, you're stopped. There's a policeman at virtually every school in our district now. And these gentlemen and ladies are doing a wonderful job. We haven't had that kind of problem here. I pray to God we never will. But it's good to know that the policemen are there.
Mike?
Pleased, is that part of the question? You're pleased with the security, and what can we do? We can continue to...
Are you satisfied with the district's steps to ensure safety at our schools, and should more be done?
Sorry, maybe not pleased then. Okay. Well, we committed $4 million plus or minus in the approved bond package, right, to go and upgrade our security systems. Is that enough? Maybe it should be 40 million, I'm not sure. We work closely with the Lisa Police Department, and I would put our department up against any other department across this country. They have some tremendous detectives we utilize and some cybersecurity that we utilize on a regular basis. We have SROs in their middle schools and high schools. We had a conversation some years ago prior to me being on the board directly with the superintendent and the police chief at the time. And do we want, security machines when you walk in every day? That's a tough one because it sets a tone. Do we want fencing? That sets a tone. I don't know that we want that per se. It's a community effort and a community conversation. So I hope we can continue to focus on it.
Thank you. Larry?
This is something that you never stop asking. The question is, have we done enough? It's a constant reassessment of every time, every year looking, have we done enough? It's not an easy solution. There is not an easy solution. So I think it's important to continue to reproduce the training that we give our teachers and students so that that's fresh in their mind. It's important to hire professionals to come in and evaluate the situation. There's new technology that's always being developed. Maybe we can take advantage of that. Maybe we have the financial resources to take advantage of that. But again, it's not an easy solution. And I certainly don't think that we want armed guards walking around our campus. So we've got to stay alert. We've got to continue to train our teachers and the personnel on what to do when the situation happens, and keep asking ourselves, have we done enough, and what else can we do?
Heather?
I definitely think that our security can improve. This is a difficult topic because so much of it relies on what happens outside of the schools themselves, because whatever a kid is doing coming to school with a weapon is a symptom of something else that's going on in that child's life. So it's a complex problem, but I will say just one comment on the current processes. I really do not think active shooter drills are wise when they involve students, because the most likely active shooter is going to be a member of that student body. And all you're doing during that active shooter drill is telling that student exactly what every other student's going to be doing and what the process is in the classroom. It's incredibly dangerous, in my opinion. I think that if you're going to do active shooter drills, you should be training your teachers and leave your students out of it wherever possible, so that the teachers know what to do, but the students are not going to know what the plan is, or at least some of the plan. Thank you.
Jennifer?
So I think as far as safety procedures go, we've had experience since the 90s. People have had the awareness of what can happen in schools. So overall, a lot of the safety procedures are there, and they're good. One thing that we can work on to improve, though, is building relationships and communication with the students to encourage them, if you see something, say something. Really kind of putting that in the forefront of people's mind to, not worry about getting in trouble with their friends. If they see a safety concern, that they need to bring it to the attention of someone that can take care of it. I think we have phenomenal resource officers in Lee Summit that should be celebrated for what they do. And even in the example, the recent shooting in Kansas, the resource officer stepped up and did what they were supposed to do. And that's why the damage wasn't greater than it was. So we need to celebrate our awesome resource officers.
Thank you. Well, again, we want to thank you all for your candid answers tonight. Lastly, I would like to give each candidate an opportunity to provide any closing remarks. Please keep your remarks to 1 minute or less. We will reverse the order we used during the open remarks. And the first person to close will be Joseph. Sir, you have 60 seconds. Thank you. And you need your microphone.
My mom is the reason I'm in education. She told me when I was young, Joe, you can't get too much education. After 4 college degrees, I went back to her and said, I'm done. I'm not done, though. Now that I've moved here to Lee's Summit, I've seen the need. I want to fulfill it. I want to be your board of directors, board of education. I want to serve you. I want to do the best I can in doing that. And I believe if you elect me, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. William.
Got to do a quick shout out to my former debate students. They are critiquing me tonight, so if I have a sad face tomorrow, I probably didn't, in their minds, do very good, but hello, guys. So I'm going to say this. We've got a great slate of candidates here, and a lot of great information has been put out, and I would just encourage you to make an educated decision. What touched your heart? What is important to you? A lot of emotional things going on here. I mean, you stirred my emotions on several topics and everything. I'm going to repeat just kind of where I'm at. My priorities, budget, where are we going to go with it? Being proactive versus reactive. Return to normalcy in our schools, adjusting, preparing for that. And my final one is this, is building on our past success. I don't believe this school district has really had a bad history. We have got just great successes. And then we're preparing for the future with an inclusive mindset designed for all citizens of LSR-7. I made it in time. Yes.
Thank you. Melissa.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. It's a 3-hour time commitment, and I really appreciate that. My closing statement is that I'm running to represent all of the students, the teachers, and the community and provide governance within our school district. I understand the need to provide a modern, futuristic education for our children. I understand that we need to recognize that we have an equity deficiency within our school district. We are addressing that. I think it's really important that we integrate education into our system as part of the CSIP, being on the CSIP committee. I thought it was very interesting and exciting that we were talking about opportunities for our children that were not 4-year degrees. So we were looking at trades, we were looking at building new teachers. I'm excited about the future of LSR-7.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Thank you all for coming out tonight to listen to all of us speak. I just want to let you guys know that I care. I mean, I'm here running because I care about the success of our district. I want to serve everyone. We have so many diverse people in our community with different needs, different values, and I want to represent everyone. I have leadership experience, and although it's not traditional education experience, it shows that I can work with teams, that I can listen and collaborate, and I can also help serve. I have worked on budgets. We didn't really talk a lot about financial stuff tonight, but that is something that I want to share, is that I do have that experience with budgetary information. And I just want to share that I listen. I've built a large network within this community because I do listen to concerns. I do hear and appreciate everything that people say, and I do address as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather.
Thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight. It's a great turnout, and I really appreciate everybody spending their evening here. I just want to end with saying that I am running because I really care about educating our future generation, because it really is the most important resource that we can give our students is a strong education. I believe that it's important that we provide resources to the students who need it the most. I also believe that we need to support the educational partnership with our families and make sure that we're bringing them into the fold wherever possible. And additionally, and very importantly, we need to be providing resources, training, and support for our educators, because we don't have a quality education system without good teachers. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry.
So you know about my experience, but let me tell you about my passion. Where do I get my passion from? It's from my daughter sitting on the front row here. You know, in 4th grade, she had an IEP, and that started our journey. And we worked and worked and worked, and we had meetings with teachers, and we sat down late evenings working on homework, and she graduated. And never once in all that time did she say, "Daddy, this is too hard. I don't want to do this anymore." And with that inspiration is why I want to serve the communities of LSR-7. I want to ensure that other children have the resources they need to be successful. And by the way, she's on the dean's list at Longview.
Thank you. Mike.
Outstanding. Thank you. Congratulations, by the way. And you've got a great dad here. And I sincerely appreciate all these folks putting ourselves on the line and listening and hearing and having some direction from a vast majority of folks in this community. And it shows the quality of this community. I'll tell you, somebody said something to me yesterday or Monday, I think. It's like, I write one check, right? I write one check to this community for quality education, quality roads, quality streets. Something that wasn't asked tonight that I was hoping it would be asked was, how do we work with the city? There's some tremendous opportunities out there with a positive relationship we have with the city. And I want to continue along those lines and anticipate where we're going to be from 103,000 people now to what, 120, 140 when 4,000 more acres opens up. It's a visionary position to be in, and I want to continue to build on that visionary experience, make sure that our leadership team is driving it forward, and that we, as she had mentioned, have the best educators in our classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we give them all a round of applause? They did a great job tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you, candidates, for being here this evening and participating in tonight's forum. We want to again thank the Missouri Innovation Campus for their hospitality and this evening's sponsors, AT&T, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, Missouri State Teachers Association, Lee's Summit Tribune, and Spire for partnering with the Chamber. We appreciate our audience at attending this evening. We thank you for your engagement and interest in being a part of this important and worthwhile process. The Lee's Summit Chamber has done its part by introducing the candidates to the community. Now we ask that you do your part and represent your right in the voting process by voting on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Thank you again, and best to all of our candidates. Thank you.